This is Naomi Aki talking about Whitney Houston. This is Naomi Aki talking about Whitney Houston. I want to dance with somebody.
But you do some of the actual singing
Yes.
as well. So what's that
Yeah.
like to be singing like Whitney?
Ooh, yeah, well, there was two parts to it. I only sing like one song, and it's when she's much younger and she's finding her voice and stuff. Everything else is Whitney. The thing I would do though is I had to sing every single song anyway to make it sound like like I was actually singing, and I would just ask John Warhurst, who was the head of music, just to crank up the music like as loud as possible, because I was like, nobody needs to hear my voice.
And this is Required Watching, where we watch the essential films from lists of cinematic influencers and look at them through the lens of learning about filmmaking, how to move forward. I'm your host Trey Epps, and this movie is written by Cassie Lemons. Directed by Cassie Lemons, written by Anthony McCartan, and starring Naomi Aki, Stanley Tucci, Ashton Sanders, and what else can I say? I guess this movie is about the tracking the rise of Whitney Houston from obscurity to superstardom and her death in 2012. This is Whitney Houston. I want to dance with somebody. All right, I'm gonna stop. I was a bit flustered. Starting this mainly because um yeah, I don't know. I think I was just thinking about how this may not be the best biopic of all times, and despite it written by the screenwriter who wrote Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm left a bit disappointed. And allow me to back up. Again, I'm Trey Epps, and this is Required Watching. And at least for the month of January, we're going to look at some Oscar contenders, uh, films that are in the conversation for the Oscars as they approach or nominations approach. And this movie is certainly one of them. Is certainly one of them. And again, I can't say that it's a great movie or even the best biopic I've ever seen. I'm a bit disappointed, having been in a time where we have Elton John, Bohemian Rhapsody, um, uh, who am I missing? Uh, uh, who am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing another biopic, a musical biopic. But we have all of these great biopics that are coming out, and yet this one feels a bit flat. Um, and I think I mentioned this right after I saw the movie with my wife, that I think it's because that it felt like it didn't get into much depth. If you knew nothing about Whitney Houston, you most certainly came to this movie and felt like you maybe learned a little bit something while hearing some of her music, and it was fantastic. However, I'm not sure if it gave you what you wanted. Having grown up with Whitney Houston in my house and watching the few documentaries at some at film festivals most recently, I really did feel like it didn't get me into this, like really say anything. And I wonder if it's because of I can't say I know the rules, but I wonder if it's because of, maybe dramatizing anything about people that are alive would have been a bad thing. Maybe they could have been sued, whatever it is. But it just seemed like some of her troubles were just kind of glanced over. Her rise was a bit glanced over, and suddenly some of the strong points, some of the things that you know about Whitney weren't hit as hard as I think it should have. Um, but that yeah, sure, that's a criticism of the film. But as a whole, again, if you didn't know anything about it, I think it was pretty good. I really enjoyed being able to listen to Whitney Houston and be reminded of how much I loved Whitney Houston when she was alive, despite her issues. Um, and it's really great to really know how. Again, she's a trendsetter. She's someone who really paved the way for a lot of female artists, and I don't think that has been hit home as much as it could. And it wasn't even that this film showcased her drug use or her battling her demons or personal life. Um, as much. Like that wasn't even a dark cloud. I think maybe my real issue is that there doesn't really seem to be an antagonist. There doesn't seem to be any driving force that's bringing her down. It's just someone telling the story of a woman who uh, sang in a church and got famous and then like did drugs and then died. It just felt like and then instead of it being dramatized in such a way that it actually felt heavy. Um, if you're looking for the best biopic, I would say Jackson 5, The American Dream, which you cannot find anywhere in HD. So if you want to watch 5 hours learning about Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, which is really, really good, um, you should find it online. It's online somewhere. Anyways, it's again very fun. Very fun, very very fun. I love Stanley Tucci in this. I didn't know he would be in this, and seeing her relationship with Clive Davis was really really good. Clive Davis has, I think, such a huge reputation in music, right? But it really felt like, at least within this movie, that they had a really really close relationship. And I think that's interesting. Honestly, if this was like called Whitney and Clive, I'd buy it and I'd be in it, and I'd love to see that from like that point of view, because Clive Davis executive produced this along with Pat Houston, which I believe is her cousin or aunt, something like that. I don't know exactly, but yeah. Um, I'll stop kind of being negative about the movie, because honestly, it should be called like Whitney Houston, A Star Is Born, and I really do mean that for Naomi Aki, who really put her heart and soul into this. And I think more than looking like Whitney Houston, I think. And despite, I think she's just a really good job lip syncing, because I swore it was her singing the entire time. But I think you really see her charisma, or at least her inhabited charisma of Whitney Houston, and I think it really really shows how I don't know. I think she was a really strong actress in this, and I think she has a lot of charisma and charm, and is super appealing. And I would love to see her in other films where she's able to really sink down into a character and shine, because I really really do feel like she was kind of toe to toe with Stanley Tucci, and uh well, that may have been a dream to be. I would love to be on set with Stanley Tucci and being in the scene with him, but I think she really handled herself really well, and I was never judging her acting in a way of like, oh, she can't handle this. And I'm not sure of her career, so in my mind, this is the first thing I've ever seen of her. That's not true. She's been in other things. What has she been in? I've definitely seen her in other things. Master of None is what I've seen her in, and Small Axe. Okay, great. And she was in some Star Wars stuff. Great. So she's not like brand new to the scene, but I think in terms of uh I'm not sure if this is breaking her out, but I do think and hope that we see more of her, because I think she's absolutely fantastic. Um, I've seen a lot of criticism of this film and how it doesn't get into much depth, but I just talked about how I kind of agree. I agree with all that. I also think some of the musical cues were weird and wrong, and I think we get a lot of hits from Whitney Houston. But it ends in her I think 1994 AMA performance, where she did this medley of really vocally challenging medley, and she absolutely killed it, and she did, and it was fantastic. But I don't think, again, even with my, let's say, tertiary knowledge of Whitney Houston and being a fan, I wouldn't have said that that was like the moment of Whitney Houston. So I would have loved to have seen something else play out a bit more for her for the final song. And maybe it's because the final act was a bit of a letdown, as it just didn't really show anything other than her. I don't know. It just didn't really do anything. Um, but yeah, yeah. Again, is this movie required? I would say no. I would say no. I would say no. It isn't required. I think there are a ton of musical biopics out there that do a fantastic job of being able to handle not only one artist, but even Bohemian Rhapsody shows many of like a band, even though it doesn't get into um, all of their like deep within all of their lives. I think it does a great job at showing the general lives and really focusing in on Freddie Mercury. Elton John did a great job of digging into his life as well as his music. So yeah, I'm not sure if this. I'm curious on what would happen during the nominations to see where this lands, if this gets anything at all. Um, yeah, because I've been surprised at all. I think my criticism of it doesn't mean that I don't like it, but I do think that it does mean that I'm questioning where this lands because I've heard this in conversation of the Oscars. Maybe it's just PR buzz, but I'm just curious about where they think it will be. Who knows? Um, so save your time. Don't watch it. Watch some other ones. Um, but yeah. Anyways, this is required watching, and of course, we're a film club. What did you think of this? Did you guys love Whitney Houston the same way I did? Because I know that certainly after this movie, I was jamming out to all of her music. Uh, yeah, again, we're talking Oscars or movies that we've seen in the last year that should be getting huge awards, whether that's in America where Oscars are obviously held, or the BAFTAs or the whatevers. Like, let me know whether it's Western Western awards or not. What movies you think should be praised for how absolutely fantastic it is. Um, and yeah, if I haven't seen it, I'll add it to my list, and maybe I have seen it and it's coming up. Hmm. Uh, Thanks so much for sticking in with us. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk soon. All right, cool. Bye. Peace.